First up, a huge thank you to the Enshrine team for hosting us and getting us moving this year with our new set of monthly webinars for the Enshrine Learning Academy. It's the first one for the year. And what a wonderful thing that right today, all days, we are here thinking about our future, thinking about how can we learn and grow together as a collective. And it's really wonderful to share this day and this moment with you. Remember it, imprint it in your mind. Very exciting times that we are part of, as much as they are very hectic and very difficult, all rolled into one. But we will get through this and we will get on the other side and be stronger for it. Right, so let's get into our session for today. Okay, so welcome to the webinar. As I mentioned, my name is Belinda Doveston. Great to be with you. I'm part of the Enshrine Learning Academy team. We're a group of very passionate coaches and trainers and facilitators who want to make a real difference in people's lives. And thanks to the Enshrine team for stepping up and providing a service to the recruitment industry, to those looking for great employment, and the wider community for hosting us and being such an amazing organization, really passionate about people, not just about numbers, but really about growing people and enshrining your purpose in your career. So really thank you to Karen and her team for being here and holding the space for us all to share together today. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for being part of the session and taking time out from a very hectic time in our lives to be here together, to learn together. And really, if you are in a leadership position of any kind, whether you have one person who's in your team or you have a family that you lead, whatever your leadership position is, this is going to provide something for you today to really get your teeth stuck into. And if you are in particular are trying to balance your own responsibility for others with your own anxieties and needs. What do I do? Where are we going? What's happening next in our world? How are we going to get through this? How can I maximize this opportunity? If you're trying to balance your own responsibility for your own life and those that you lead and serve, even if that is your family, then we're going to focus on that today. And the third question is, are you ready to step up? Because we're going to talk about things today that are about not lying down in the gutter and saying, woe is me, the sky is falling in. We are stepping up and we're using the opportunity of stress and crisis to make a meaningful difference and to do something on a much higher level. So if those three questions tick for you, then keep staying and joining in with us as we go through the process this morning. All right, so our world has literally turned itself upside down. If we roll back our minds to wherever you were celebrating New Year's Eve, what were you doing in New Year's Eve? Think about it. Where were you? Maybe you're scratching your head thinking, I can't remember where I was on New Year's Eve. What was happening for you at the end of the year as we went into a holiday and we came back into our business life and we got going, and within a few weeks we started to find that something really strange was happening in our world. There was a crisis that was unfolding and accelerating, and here we are. And I just love this image of this focus point that the world through a new lens is the right way up. But right now it feels like it's the wrong way up. We're upside down. And our task is to create clarity and agility and mastery. What can we do to really unlock the situation? Now, in terms of today's topic, I'm not going to give you the 10-point plan of how to maximize your cash flow. That's not what my strength is. What we're going to do is we're going to focus on what could we see deeper under the surface for ourselves and our opportunities and the seeds under the surface that we can pay attention to, and we can use this crisis time, whether you're self-isolating or not, or in a country that is or isn't, doesn't matter. Whatever you're going through right now, that we can use this kind of time of focus and retreat to really focus on those seeds under the ground and what we do to be ready and to be really geared up, that when the crisis is over, because it will be over at some future point, that we are ready to move forward and accelerate, not just in busy doingness, but in really meaningful, juicy, interesting things that we can contribute. And so that's what I'm going to bring you today, is the deeper things under the surface that we can think about and how we can apply that. So in terms of our overall theme, what are we going to focus on today? Now, I don't know if you've heard of a gentleman. His name is Rob Stokes, and you might have even have seen his message doing the rounds on LinkedIn. That's how I came across it. And Rob Stokes is a man that's very heavily involved in education and media and tech in South Africa. And he's currently the chairman of the Red and Yellow Creative School, very famous school, and is also on all kinds of boards. And I first met or came across him many, many years ago when he was the founder of Quirk, and he was producing amazing cutting-edge materials and email marketing many, many years ago. Anyway, so when his post popped up into LinkedIn, what's Rob Stokes speaking about here? And he had these amazing 10 points of how to lead in a time of crisis. I went through them. I thought, gee whiz, can't we, take these 10 points and make them into a tool to unpack deeper thinking, to get to those seeds that I was talking about. So what we're going to do is we're going to use Rob's 10 points today. We're going to unpack those 10 principles of leadership in a crisis, and we're going to self-evaluate ourselves against a set of criteria I've come up with to say, how do we know we are leading well in a time of crisis? And so let's go and get stuck into Rob's processes. I'm going to look at each one, and we're going to look at getting ourselves geared and thinking around what are the 3 top things that we can take from this set of criteria, this inventory of leadership in a time of crisis that we can apply in our homes, we can apply in our teams, in our businesses now. So what I'd like you to do is have you a pen and a piece of paper, or whatever piece of technology is an equivalent for you of a pen and a piece of paper. And I'd like you to, one line under the other, make 10 points. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, one on each line. So 10 points. And as we go through each of Rob's principles, we're going to do a little bit of a self-reflection on where we're at. As we go through, it'll be really valuable for you to just make notes of particular ideas that pop out, because I'm going to ask you a little bit later to share some of your thoughts and ideas of what's coming up for you. So pen and paper, 1 to 10 listed down, and let's get into these 10 principles. Each one we're going to reflect, we're going to write down a bit of a score, and we're going to look at where might be some areas we could do some work. Those seeds under the ground. All right, are you ready? Okay. Our first point, and I'll read you the point and then explain what that means. His first point was, first and most important, acknowledge within yourself that now it is your time to properly lead. Lead yourself before you lead others. I mean, if we just had that one bullet point and that's all we focused on for the hour, that would be amazing. So I've called this self-leadership. And really what this means, it means putting the mask on yourself in the airplane for the oxygen to flow before you help others. We can't be good leaders if we don't take care of ourselves, if we don't have internal leadership. And so what I've done is I've broken this self-leadership idea to 3 points. How I define self-leadership. And of course, you might have a different view. That's great. Make some own notes as you go through. But how I unpack this is saying self-leadership is, number one, I am physically energized to tackle this crisis. In other words, I haven't gone into physical overload of exhaustion. I'm physically energized to tackle this crisis. Number two, my heart is calm and free from anxiety. Wouldn't we all love that? And number three, my head is clear and I know exactly what my plan is. So as I go through these points, remember that none of us are going to get a 100% perfect score, and there's no right or wrong score. This is your own process. And so what I'd like you to think about is, when you think about self-leadership and you think about these 3 criteria, being physically energized, calm and free from anxiety, and your head clear with a good plan, exactly what the plan is, if you were to give yourself a score on your own scorecard for self-leadership, what would that be? And we're rating between 1 and 5. So you can never get 0 for this test, okay, which is great. So it's either completely disagree, I'm completely not able to deliver that right now as a leader, number 1, or I am completely able to deliver that. You completely agree with number 5. So take your point number 1, self-leadership, and think about what this might look like for you. To what extent are you able to lead yourself first in the ability to lead others? Okay, got it? We're all clear? Anybody's got any questions, put them in the chat box on how the process works. and we'll go through each of the 10 points as we go. All right, so that's self-leadership. Do we have the tools and techniques and abilities to calm our mind, calm our thoughts, and just bring energy back? Okay, take care of the physical body. And this is a particular reason why I wanted to gift you the visualization exercises, because they're going to help specifically with this particular one. Okay, good. Point number 2, let's get into point number 2. So Rob says, point number 2, your most important job is to get your ship to the other side. The only things you cannot sacrifice to get there are your values or your ship's values. Oh, I love these things he's put together. This is so amazing, because when we are in a crisis, one of the things that happens in a crisis is everything is cut open. It's like, you know, what is known and what is fixed, all the masks we wear are smashed open. And what we see is we see wonderful gems emerging in our teams and ourselves. And we also see those things that are not so great. Everything comes out. And usually what happens is we start to see what are the things we really value personally. In a crisis, we cut away all the noise and we start to see the things that are most important to me are ... And we also see in our team, we see the real values that our team or our company holds dear to. You know, you can have those values on the plaque on the wall. I'm sure some of you have got that. There's the company values on the wall, and you walk past it every morning on the way in to the office. And now when there's a crisis, if you look at that poster, is your team or company living that poster? Those nice words that some branding agency put together, are those being actually lived? Or is the company or team fundamentally living by a totally different set of values? And what a wonderful thing to see that. We're smashing open the pumpkin and seeing what's on the inside. So the criteria I've come up for values, so think about that, because we're going to... Number 1, my personal values have been clearly defined, because very often they're like, it's on the to-do list and it gets postponed indefinitely, right? So number 1, we have a great set of values clearly defined. Number 2, I live 100% by my personal values. Remember, these are not necessarily, we're not going to get a full score here, okay? It's just about just understanding that. I live 100% by my personal values. And number 3, my team lives 100% by our company values. Okay, so those are the criteria. We think about number 2 values. Let's give ourselves a score from 1, completely disagree, but that's what's happening now, to number 5, I completely agree. So 1 to 5 for criteria number 2. Write that down, make any notes, any ideas or thoughts as we're going through that. All right, all good. Let's do value number 3. Okay, on to number 3. His third point that I've called opportunity says there is always an opportunity in every big and small disaster. Your job is to keep your people finding these positives. Okay. And this is what happens. In a crisis, we discover our creative talent that lies dormant until we really, really need to pull it out the bag. And then voila, we find that we can solve problems we never knew that we could solve. And isn't that true of the human race? That's what we do. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could do that outside of a crisis? But anyway, we are learning as a species. But this is what happens. You find yourself in a crisis and you find solutions that just were not there, because we really can bring it in a crisis. And our job is to make sure we keep our team focused on those positives, on the opportunities that any crisis brings. Okay, it's how we look at the crisis that counts. So let's look at these 3 criteria. I've unpacked a bit more for you. Number 1, despite the crisis being beyond my control, I trust deeply that everything will work out for the better. So this is a value in a way, or a deeply held belief that no matter what's going to happen, we'll be okay, we'll get through it, and we'll work out for the better. That's a way of seeing opportunity in everything. Point number 2 isn't saying we are in la-la land, overly optimistic about everything. This is saying there's a reality, but we're way more positive than we are negative. That's our habit. And the third point says the opportunity this crisis are clear to me. So particularly in South Africa, we're locked down as of tonight, and here we are. We've got teams all over the place. What do we do? You know, one of the things about a crisis is that it allows us to put down all the noise, the things, the projects, the entanglements we gather around our busyness. And when we are forced to put all those down, and in this time we are forced in a way that we've never seen before in our lifetime, we've got to be able to say there's a huge opportunity in that. And I think, you know, in the busyness of teams, there's a whole pile of things that are really important to the future development of our organizations, of our careers, of our potential, that we never get to because we're so busy with customer delivery and problem solving and strategy and KPI delivery and all these things. Think about the training opportunities you and your team have right now, even just to collaborate and share information. Think about the opportunities to build your business models, to document your policies, for your sales team to create a sales plan and a sales training model, of recording video of all your team sharing everything they know about everything about your customers. Like the opportunity to do that now, the opportunity to rethink your strategy of planning how you're going to really accelerate in the market when this is all over. Those are opportunities that we get in this time. And every single one of your team, whether they have a laptop or not, they have a cell phone, and we have cheaper data now. So now is the time where we take this opportunity. We don't loll about at home. We take the opportunity to use the time to develop the foundation of what we're trying to do. And we build, build, build. This is the opportunity. So let's give ourselves a rating from 1 to 5. And the criteria of opportunity, completely disagree at number 1 right through to number 5. And any notes that you have on opportunity. Okay, all good. Right. Now, number 4. So I've called this decisiveness. And Rob said, listen to all the, but now it's time for decision by committee. And you know how it goes. I'm sure you've been in a decision by committee where the decision's got to go and be tabled, and there's a paper, and everyone debates it, and then backwards and forwards. And then if the whole committee agrees that it's right, then it's right. Now is the time for decisive action. And so part of this process is using the scope of your authority, not being fearful, using the scope of your authority to make executive decisions that are within your scope that allow you to do what you need to do. Personally, professionally, you don't have to ask your entire family what you should be doing. You make the executive decision in your own life, be decisive, and go for it. And so what I've done is unpack and double check new sources of data. We are all bombarded at the moment by so much fake news, we don't even know what to do with ourselves. So we have to develop our critical faculties of looking at data accurately, using good quality scientific data, not myth and legend. Okay, so especially when it comes to hand sanitizers, reaching out to quality data and double checking new sources of data. So our well-being, our ability to handle this crisis comes back to the quality of data we have to make decisive decisions. Number 2, I control the amount of news and social commentary I consume. Okay, what would be tragic for me in this situation is we spent 21 days in lockdown, for those who are in South Africa, and other cases you've already been in lockdown for a while, is to spend the next 20 days thumbing through your social profiles for hours on end and TikToking yourself into a stupor, and whatever it is that your poison on social platforms is, be wary of spending all this precious time we have to grow and learn and build and develop, and we spend that on social media because it consumes our mind. It really can be our undoing. Watching news every 5 minutes. Even the World Health Organization head said, please check your news broadcast only twice a day, because there's a mental health issue around becoming obsessed with news. And the more we consume, the more we read everything on Facebook, the more we are clouding our ability to see true data. So our ability to control our urge to consume is a key to getting through this crisis. And the third point is I am decisive and willing and able to exercise my authority. This is not about Dilly-dallying, this is about making a decision, listening to the data and making a decision. And there's such wonderful other points coming along I'll get to next. So let's get a little scoring. Write down from 1 to 5 how you rate yourself on decisiveness in a time of crisis. And for those who've recently joined us, lovely to have you with us. Annette and Odette, welcome. We are busy going through a set of 10 principles and we're rating ourselves on each one. So it doesn't matter you've arrived in the middle of some of them, just take up your pen and a piece of paper and rate yourself as we go through each of these as we go along. All right, so that's decisiveness. Number 5, I've called speed. Okay, and so Rob says to us, make decisions that are fast, but not rash. I just love these points. And so how I've unpacked his point is saying, number 1, I feel a deep sense of urgency to act now. Okay, so this is not a time where we are paralyzed deer in the headlights. Okay, this is like, we've got to act now. The opportunities now. We've got to do something now without getting hysterical, but really feeling the urgency of doing something now. That's what we've got to have within us for this idea of speed. Number 2, I have a good framework in place to help me make good, speedy decisions. And so this is referring to our organizations and our teams. Do we have fundamentally in place a framework of thinking that can help us make great decisions, good quality decisions that are fast but not rash? And what we tend to find in these kinds of situations is that the crisis unpacks and we realize that there are problems. Like we are realizing that our health systems, our governance structures have issues. There's inabilities to act and make decisions that allow the right people to get the right medical equipment. We're seeing these institutional structures struggle because the process is pressurizing those to do that. And in our own organizations, we will see where there are organizations that have this massive act well, and other organizations that are just tied up in swirling eddies of indecision and action by committee in the previous one. And point number 3 is my team is well equipped to execute on quick decisions. So my team can actually act. They've got authority, they've got structures, they've got space and decision-making authority, they can go for it. So my team actually fundamentally is well equipped. So think about speed when we think about handling this crisis, and let's give yourself a score from 1 to 5 of how you feel you completely explore living these key ideas, or you completely agree. 1 to 5. All right, so we're halfway there through our 10 principles. Let's move on to number 6. Number 6, Rob says, point number 6 is make decisions that are brave but not foolish. Okay, so we had fast but not rash in the previous one. These are decisions that are brave but not foolish. Okay, so what did I say for these ones? Number 1, I have a track record of feeling the fear and doing it anyway. Okay, and we are really, this is one of those things where we are really pushed to realize that we are being pushed into new things, we're being pushed into new realities, and what we have to do is feel the fear and do it anyway. The opportunities to pop out of this much stronger are always present if we are willing to feel the fear and do it anyway. And of course, in your life, have you developed an ability to do this as a muscle that you can use in any situation? Or is it about avoiding the fear and keeping it too safe? Point number 2, I consciously avoid reacting in a knee-jerk or in a devil-may-care manner. In other words, a knee-jerk reaction is, a great example is Standard Bank's decision to try and give away free financing, and it blew up in their face when people started to realize the detailed terms and conditions. Like, it's a knee-jerk reaction, not a well-thought-through response, but just a reaction without thinking. And the second part of devil may care is, well, I don't mind about this virus. I'm young. I don't care. I'm going to go and party as much as I want to. And of course, we've seen that in the media. Conducive to the whole. So do we react in particular ways? Do we knee jerk, or do we say, I don't care? Devil may care. Okay. Do we react in that way? And do we consciously avoid responding in that way? And then point number 3 is, even though we do not know where this is going, we step up every day without being asked to. So in this crisis, there will be some of you, I'm sure, listening to me right now, who haven't been given clear leadership guidelines or actions from your team that you report to. That does not mean that you now do not step up as a leader for your team. And maybe you have to commit to connecting with your team every single day, upholding your organizational routines, building and continuing to build emotional connections, using this opportunity to create deep emotional connections with the people around you in your team, as opposed to everyone just disappearing into their holes for 21 days. And we lose that momentum. We lose the relationship that is sitting there that we could be building. So even though you haven't been given express instructions, this is what you have to do. What do you feel you need to do to be brave and to be courageous and to step up for your team, who are probably sitting there in a high state of anxiety and very, very stressed? So think about courage, about making decisions that are brave but not foolish, and let's write down your score for yourself from 1 to 5. Okay, good. And we've got some new joiners. Welcome, Fabio, Johan, and who else has joined us? Okay, great. So let's go on to point number 7. Okay, point number 7, Rob's statement for commitment. I call it commitment. Whatever your decision, make it, be confident in it, move on, and ensure your team commits behind it no matter what. Change your mind only if the data changes. Okay, I just love these 10 points. And so I thought about this one. What does this commitment mean to make your decision, be confident, to move on and ensure your team commits? And the first thing that popped into my mind was the word fickle. And I love the word fickle. It's not a great thing to be, but being fickle is that the minute something else comes along or new information comes along or somebody's got an opinion, you've changed your mind and something else is on the dashboard. And particularly in people who've got founder-led businesses, I'm sure what happens, you've seen this example of the founder of the business come up with a team decision on a Friday. You've all made a decisive decision. And you all know that once he or she goes home, there's going to be a long discussion over the week with their significant other. And on Monday, the founder or the leader is going to come back on Monday and have changed his or her mind because there's an influence at home. I'm sure there's somebody here who's had that. So if you have had that, just pop a yes into the chat box. So being fickle means changing your mind quickly and not sticking to your decisions. And it's one way to completely destroy your respect. Team and I of delivering promises. So now we're looking and we're saying, what is the foundation that we have as a team that we're building upon in this moment? Or are we starting to see that fundamentally, actually, we have this problem of delivering our promises? And thanks to Otto and yes, you will see that. Executing decisions made and have great tools to support us. So we execute, we take the decision, and we have tools as an organization that help us do that. If discovering as part of this unpacking process that's an area you don't have. We struggle to deliver on the promise, we don't have tools to execute on the ideas, then maybe that's something that's an opportunity for you and your team to build right now. So let's rate commitment from 1 to 5. 1 completely disagree, and 5 completely agree. Okay, that's number 7, commitment. Right. Number 8. And we have number 8, the discomfort zone. Before I do that, I've got a couple of questions. Someone's saying, Shannon and Warwick are saying, is anyone experiencing audio problems? Anybody else having the problem? Dita's having that problem. Okay. Liesel's also having that problem. It's cutting out a bit. Okay, so let's hope we don't have the world on Webinar Jam having problems. Let's just keep an eye on it. And if it's still going on, let's see how it goes. We are doing a recording, so we should have that. And if there are problems with Webinar Jam, that'll pop up in the recording. So let's just keep an eye on that. Okay. Usha, she says she reconnected and seems fine, so maybe refresh and reconnect. Okay, let's keep going. The internet is holding itself together for us for the next few minutes. Point number 8, I've called this the discomfort zone. Okay, and Rob says, be thoughtful, but move forward a little faster than you are entirely comfortable with. We don't have the luxury of comfort. So this is about you in normal life, right? Do you actively seek the unknown outside my comfort zone? Once I know how to do something, do I push myself into other areas where I'm not comfortable? Am I willing to make an idiot out of myself in the spirit of learning something? Okay, and just to is to reconnect to the webinar, and it seems to reset and help. Okay, right, so I actively seek the unknown outside my comfort zone. All right, so that's what we have as a value or as a habit in life. Number 2, I've developed ways to curb procrastination and avoidance. Okay, so that's one of my terrible ones, procrastinating over something I don't want to do. Have we got tools and techniques of understanding as we move forward? And number 3 is now talking to culture. We have a culture of taking short-term pain for long-term gain. In other words, if we are always making decisions to satisfy the short-term pain, we are not going to do well through this crisis. We have to have an organizational culture of being willing to take the pain for long-term gain. And so is that true for your culture? So I've unpacked that. Number 1, I relish the opportunity to learn from every life experience. Okay, so I relish the opportunity to learn from every life experience. Okay, as a person, that's what I do. I look to really get that. And one of the ways to think about it is a wonderful old saying that we should search for learning and growth, like a man with a burning beard searches for water. And it's such a wonderful way of thinking about that opportunity, relishing the opportunity to learn from every life experience. Number 2, I would rather make mistakes than hesitate and slow down. Okay, and if we're in a organizational culture where mistakes are penalized, it makes it very hard to do that, or if we've created a culture like that. And number 3, my team has a work habit of undertaking small sprint-like learning cycles. So in the very way we work as an organization, as a team, do we have a work ritual that takes a small, which if we don't have small little sprint learning cycles, it does indeed become. So accelerated learning, you are going to make a lot of mistakes, get over them, learn from them, and move forward fast. So let's make a rating from 1 to 5 on that one, and then we'll go on to our last one. Okay, yes, for everybody, we'll be sharing the notes after the session, not only the recording of the session, but also the slides of these 10 points, so that you have all 10 points you can refer back to and sit and perhaps do a relook with your team and review how you are doing. Okay, right, point number 10, I've called this communicate. And Rob says, communicate more than you think is necessary to all those you are leading, both internally and externally. Your staff are vital, but don't forget that your customers are also looking to you for leadership. And of course, you might have internal customers, might not necessarily be customers in the traditional sense. So communicate, communicate, communicate. So if I break this down into 3 points, the first one is I communicate effectively and regularly throughout the day with my team. Even though you are all doing that remotely from different devices, that you maintain the organizational flows of communication. And if you don't have those in place, is to put them in place now, because they will be in place once you come back out of crisis to work with, going forward. So I communicate effectively and regularly throughout the day with my team. Is that true before? Is that true now? That's point number 1. Point number 2, every person in my team can succinctly share our strategy. So what that means is if you had to phone anybody in your team, or a stranger had to ask anyone on your team, what is your team or your business's strategy right now? 3 points, 30-second elevator pitch. Could they succinctly and accurately answer that question? Because that's a great measure of saying they're actually clear. We've communicated with enough depth that we all understand what it is that we are doing, our strategy for success. And point 3 says communication with our customers, even internal, is one of our greatest strengths. It's the thing that we shine at. So let's rate point number 10 from 1 to 5. And Dieter makes a great point. It's also important to remember over-communication is also negative, especially if it's unnecessary. It's being really conscious and strategic about communication and making sure we don't just throw information, data at each other. That communication is also about emotions and feelings and ideas. Communication is not just throwing data and lots of emails. It's also about building meaningful connections through that. So rate yourself 1 to 5. So before we go and look at the 10, I'm going to ask you to share in a poll, if you can still hear me. The last point that Rob makes as a closing point, he says, now is your time. You have been preparing for this moment your whole life. Seize it because the world needs you to make it. Wow, I just want to go run around and shout and scream. It's so exciting. So really wonderful 10 points from Rob Stokes and a powerful closing statement that the world needs us to lead. We need to move forward, and the only way we do it is each one of us steps into leadership effectively. So what I'd like you to do, here we have all 10 points. You're learning. How did you do? I'm going to do, I've got a poll. And what I'd like you to do is share what is the one area that you feel that you need the most. So you should have a poll on your screen, and those are the 10 points, the 10 areas. And won't you do me a favor and pop in, looking through those 10 criteria, looking at your scores from 1 to 5 you've made for those areas, is actually have a look at that. So you should have that popping onto your screen, 1 to 10, which is the area you've identified is the area that you would like to spend some time over the next few weeks working on the most, as your tool, as your special device, your secret weapon to help you get through this crisis at this time. Okay, so pop that in there. We'll keep that running. And what I'd suggest you do is part of this process, and this is really how we turn ideas into action, is take some of the detailed points, and you will get the slides. They'll come out in due course. And go through and have a look at those 3 points of each of the 10, so 30 criteria, and say, what are the particular things that you can do? What are the specific things that you would like to put into action, ideas that you've had, and perhaps make a couple of notes now, just so that while they're fresh in your mind, if you haven't yet done so, that you can really start putting that into real action. So last few entries into the poll, what is your biggest area that you would like to focus on, that you would like to develop and work on? We'll close the poll and we'll see how we do. Okay, 3, 2, 1, and end. Okay. So we have, I think you should be able to see this on the screen. We have a leading winner. We have a 31% of all of us today have said the discomfort zone is the area that we would like to focus on the most. Feel the fear and do it anyway. Step out of our comfort zone. And you know, the thing about the discomfort zone is you can't go on a course to teach you how to deal with your discomfort zone. There are wonderful tools that can push you, but it's a decision that you've got to make as a leader to create a culture, a habit of stepping out of what is comfortable for you. And one of the things that I do, and you might say it's a little bit crazy, but what I tend to do is I every now and then I go and I do a course, or I go and do an experience which is completely has no relevance to my life whatsoever. And I went and did a TV presenting course once, and it was very hard. It was very uncomfortable. I mean, you're on a camera the whole time, and it was very uncomfortable. But I tell you what, even though it was a random thing to do, I grew so much through that experience and actually use it every single week in my life now. So very interesting. And discomfort zone, that's what we're here to focus on. If we look at some of the other ones, a close second, or not so close second, at 17% is communicate. So making decisions around being uncomfortable and being okay that you don't have all the answers, that you are uncomfortable. And then second of all is improving the quality of communication with your team. Lots for us to do. Okay. So what I'd like to share with you, and if I ask by permission, if I may share something that is very close to my heart, something that I've created that I'd like to share with you today. But as we look about this idea of preparing to shut down, what can we do to use this time in whatever shutdown looks like for you, is let's ask the question first. In your team, in your organization, do you have clearly defined goals, outcomes, and KPIs that you and your organization expect you to deliver? Because if you've got those in place and you know what's expected in terms of delivery, it's a great opportunity to work with that as a starting point. You know that there's something that the team expects you to deliver, your team expects to deliver. Great, we've got KPIs, and we're going to work with those. So if we have that, we can work with that as a starting point. If you don't have that, the opportunity is to use the time to go and set some KPIs, go and set and define the goals and the outcomes of this interim period. And I really hope that you do at least have a reference point of where you're starting. The second part is then look at, do you have a clearly defined agile strategy to deliver on those outcomes? In other words, if you look at, this is the what, this is what the expectation is at an organizational level, and there's obviously a broader expectation in terms of delivery, and then there's this crisis delivery time. Do we have in place an agile strategy that can help us to deliver on those outcomes? In other words, everyone in your team, could they describe that strategy as if it was theirs, like we had in one of the bullet points, and have it in place to guide us? And the third saying, do you have an effective strategic methodology or framework to help you deliver and support on those outcomes? Can you turn ideas into reality? Okay, and could we use the shutdown time to prepare? And so what I'd like to share with you, and I'll be very quick, I'll touch on this because I will send this to you as part of the pack of meditation, guided meditations, is a course that I've developed on my online learning platform called Appian Learning. And the course is called Agile Strategy Using Lego Serious Play. And you might wonder, what on earth, why is Lego in this? And the Agile Strategy program is an online 6-part program with videos and practical exercises and templates, and about just over 10 hours of both learning videos that I've delivered and guided exercise videos using Lego Serious Play if you want. You don't have to use that. And really it's taking a pile of Lego and going through a process of using a very beautiful methodology of how to use Lego to build ideas and concepts and strategies. And you don't have to know anything about the methodology, you just arrive with a pile of Lego. And seeing as many of us are sitting at home with kids, we might be joining them with their pile of Lego. Okay, so you don't have to use the Lego as the process, but it's a really great way of unpacking that. And included in the course is a complete strategic DNA program and a 1-page strategic plan and execution methodology. So if you're finding in your organization that you don't have a tool to help your team focus and develop a capacity to react and to build your outcomes in a way that's agile, this might help you. You can use it alone for you, just you or your team, or combine with your team. So this particular course you can do with your team. You can play the videos as a training process with a team sitting around you with no extra cost. And of course, now no one's around you. So I would say that you could use the opportunity of this shutdown process is to go through it yourself and then work through it with your team once you're back together again, and use it as a way of collecting insight or building up your strategy together. All right, second last thing, and then we'll close up for this morning, is one of my other passions is something called the I Ching. For those of you who've done the Contribution Compass Profiler through Enshrine, you will know that the Contribution Compass is based on I Ching, and I have a YouTube channel where I absolutely love giving weekly and monthly episodes on what we need to focus on, how do we learn how to grow and deal with change and manage change. And it's been really useful for all of us dealing with this crisis at this time. So trust if there's something that's interesting to you. There's the YouTube channel, there's the podcast on Apple, Google, Stitcher, wherever fine podcasts are found. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And if you want to stay connected with tools to help you deal with change as we go through this all together, perhaps pop and have a look, and the link will be in the document that we'll send out after this process. So in the replay document, there will be the link for you to access all this information. Okay, so a couple of questions. Let's have a look. Risha, thanks for your comment. Right, let's see if there are any questions. Shannon says, how do we make sure we sign up on the Appian list? So what you can do is let me just do this. So you'll find that there'll be an offer popping up on your console, free guided visualizations. You can either click yes on that button, it'll take you through to that page I mentioned, or when you an hour after the session is over, you'll get the replay email from Webinar Jam, and in there will be a link to access a page which has got the visualizations on it, which you sign up to the list there, the Agile Strategy Special with your coupon code called Enshrine, and the access to all the resources on the I Ching Cafe. So, I haven't published it. Okay, there we go. It's now on your screen. So you can click on the button, yes, the blue button, and that'll take you through to that page with all the information on it of how you can extract the value. And of course, what we're also going to do when I do the emails, and we send the emails with the visualizations on them, we will also then include the slides from today. So you have all the detail in case you missed with sound. You can go and use that checklist with your team, thanks to Rob Stokes for his amazing 10 points. And we can use those points and work with them. Right. So if there are any other things that you'd like to share, thank you for all your amazing comments. Wow, I've been popping up. Thank you, Andre, and thank you, Fabio, for all the comments, and Nanjabalo, thank you so much. Thanks, Peter, and all those who put in comments. Great to have you with us, and really enjoyed. If there are any questions, you're more than welcome to work with that. Thank you, Karen, for your recommendation. Really appreciate that, and really looking forward to working with you with Agile Strategy. I know that some of our current students have asked, is there any way we can collaborate a little bit during this tough time? People are doing the course, so I'm thinking of how do I put that together for us? Maybe we can jump onto a Zoom session and have a little bit of a check-in, but it's an online course, and really appreciate all of you today. And I just pray for all of us that we stay calm and we use this opportunity to get back to what's really, really important. Get back to the core of what we are here to do as people, what we are here to do as a team, and how do we really work on unpacking our opportunities, and how do we really step into leadership, really just look back in a year's time and think, wow, if that hadn't have happened, where would I be? What opportunities I've unlocked because I took the bull by the horns and said, come on, let's transform our culture, let's transform how we live, and let's make a difference. So thank you so much. Yes, we are continuing to offer webinars. Thank you, Shannon, for your comment. There's lots of interesting things that the Enshrine Learning Academy we are working on. And of course, our monthly webinars will continue because we can. So yes, keep your eyes and ears open for emails coming from the Enshrine team. We will keep on going because why not learn together in this time of crisis? Thank you so much. Thank you to Karen and the team. And she notes that the Enshrine Learning Academy will prepare a webinar workshop program for the lockdown period. So watch this space. We'll see you online soon. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a blessed day. Stay calm and be well. Cheers.